The world is changing faster than our bodies can keep up. In general, people are living longer, healthier lives than at any other point in history. While longevity has increased since the 1900s, the age of menopause onset has remained comparatively stable. This means that more females are spending longer living with menopause than at any other time in history. To quickly remind everyone, menopause is the name we give to the point at which females run out of eggs, resulting in the tandem loss of fertility and female hormones like estrogen and progesterone. I talk more about the process of menopause, why it occurs, and what we might do to prevent it in my previous episode on fertility and aging. Today, I want to discuss more broadly on the societal and biological effects of menopause, and if we were able to stop it, should we? Hi, I'm Brendan, and you join me for another episode, the second episode, of Fertility and Aging on the Eggsperts. So, firstly, let's discuss some of the main reasons why we might want to prevent menopause from occurring in the first place. By all accounts, female reproductive lifespan has a precipitous decline after the age of 35 years, and a hard limit of around 50 to 55 years. For this reason, one of the most prominent topics we talk about as fertility researchers is the growing trend for prospective mothers to voluntarily delay pregnancy until later life. From our point of view, this can look like a whole generation of mothers playing chicken with a ticking time bomb. Of course, in reality, the decision to delay pregnancy is never so simple, and this so-called choice is often a forced one. Some of the most common reasons people may delay having children until later life is that they might want to secure financial stability, they want to pursue further education or solidify a career, they may want to pursue personal growth and development. All of these reasons for delaying pregnancy are compounded by a general lack of proper education around family planning. Some people overestimate the effectiveness of assisted reproductive technologies. Hey, we have an episode on that. You should go check it out. All of these factors mean that a growing number of want-to-be mothers may never get the chance. To an extent, the ability to slow age-related infertility or prevent menopause would help these couples gain more autonomy over when to start a family. Now, more than just the loss of fertility, menopause represents the near-complete loss of female hormones. Bone health, heart health, libido, cognition, they all suffer as a result of menopausal loss of hormones. Preventing menopause would not only attenuate some fertility problems, it would also help maintain many other aspects of health and well-being throughout life. With what I've mentioned so far, it might seem obvious that delaying or preventing menopause would be a no-brainer. Not only would it help couples start a family later in life without the pressure of a ticking clock, it could also prevent the panoply of comorbidities that are associated with the sudden loss of sex hormones. However, it's never so simple, and I've come across many conflicting opinions that I would like to talk about today. Some people say that menopause is a vital and evolutionarily important aspect of human life. Menopause has been around ostensibly as long as human beings. This fact begets a lot of questions as to its purpose both historically and in modernity. There are a few theories as to why menopause first evolved in humans. However, currently the most subscribed theory is the grandmother hypothesis, which states that infertile, elderly females are beneficial to society as they help raise the grandchildren of subsequent generations, something that would be much more difficult if they needed to devote their time and risk their lives tending to their own newborn. It takes a town to raise a child, and perhaps we ignore this at our own risk. However, one does have to ask, does menopause still provide a benefit to the human animal in our current society? Well, first of all, it is worth saying again that treatment for menopause is much more than a treatment for infertility. It would also prevent the loss of female hormones and would presumably lead to a population of healthier females who would be even more capable of providing their love and care to subsequent generations. And while it's likely that preventing menopause would increase female fertility, there are other factors, such as egg health, that would severely limit fertility in older females even without menopause occurring. Something that is related to this point, but I don't want to spend all that much time on, is the thought that preventing menopause is in some way tampering with the natural order. Some people think that stopping menopause is unnatural, and as such shouldn't be pursued purely because it's a natural process. I personally am not all that taken by these arguments. Just take a second to look around you. How many tamperings with the natural order do you see within just a meter's radius of your general area? The fact that you are able to listen to my sultry tones at all is proof of meddling with the natural order. That's not to say that human meddling can't produce numerous and grotesque outcomes. It can. It's just to say that messing with the natural course of events is not inherently bad. Which is a concession we all make every time we take a warm shower, or turn on the lights, or fix a broken limb, or take a paracetamol, or yes, listen to the Eggsperts. Something that I do think is more worthy of consideration is the idea that referring to menopause as something to be cured or prevented may lead to people viewing female biology, and women by extension, as flawed or incomplete. The truth is, menopause is entirely natural, and should never be used as a weapon to say females are anything lesser because of it. We all have individual dispositions to various diseases and ailments. Regardless of how natural these conditions may be, if they adversely impact the health and well-being of the individual, I believe we have a duty to try to treat and prevent these natural ailments. Likewise, we should be able to look at the harms menopause causes and the benefits that preventing it may have, just as we would for any other natural yet harmful process. While I believe it should be our duty to provide treatment, I also believe it should be up to the individual involved whether they want to prevent menopause in themselves. The decision not to should never be used to vilify or degrade the individual. Okay. So far we've been talking about the health benefits of preventing menopause. But are there any health risks? Well, to start, we need to say that all of this is hypothetical, as no one's ever lived past the age of 65 without going through menopause. But there are some indicators of what adverse health effects we could possibly see. These theories come courtesy of the effects we see in women undergoing hormone replacement therapy, or HRT. HRT involves replacing the female hormones lost at menopause with drugs that emulate the action of estrogen and progesterone. For many women, this is a well-tolerated and safe treatment that helps avoid the side effects of menopause. However, HRT also increases a variety of estrogen and progesterone-dependent cancers, such as breast, ovary, and endometrial cancer. And also, in the right circumstances, or perhaps I should say the wrong circumstances, may lead to an increase in heart disease, stroke, and also blood clots. It's likely that many of these adverse effects are in part a result of improper dosage. Essentially, by taking hormones in a pill or a patch, the body can no longer regulate the amount of estrogen or progesterone it is exposed to. This can lead to too little or too much hormone at any one time, and may be to blame for the increased risk of cancers and disease. There is a lot more to say on the goods and the bads of hormone replacement therapy, something that we will go into in a future episode. But for now, we can plausibly expect that some of the side effects of HRT might also appear in older females who have never gone through menopause. You can learn more about sex hormones, how they're controlled and released, in a previous episode of Bite-Sized Sex Ed by our fellow expert, Ava. Another health aspect to consider is the effect that carrying a pregnancy has on older mothers. It's well known that maternal age, as it increases, so too does the risk of dying during pregnancy or childbirth. From the ages of 15 to 34, around 20 out of every 100,000 pregnancies result in the mother's death. After the age of 35, this risk increases to 34 out of every 100,000. By the age of 50, this number shoots up to nearly 10,000 of every 100,000 pregnancies, meaning nearly 10% of all pregnancies after the age of 50 will result in fatality for mother and child. If we were to prevent menopause, it would likely have an appreciable increase on female fertility, but it would likely not change the risk of pregnancy-related death. In this way, we should ensure that anyone who is able to get pregnant later in life is properly informed of the risk this carries. Now, I want to talk a little bit on the medical and pharmacological considerations for any future treatment that we might develop. If we were to stop menopause from occurring today, there would need to be a very serious discussion about how to ensure that these treatments are available to all those who need them or want them. I mentioned in my previous episode that if a prevention method were found, it would most likely take the form of a tablet or injection or patch that would need to be taken regularly and for a significant proportion of life. This raises a series of alarm bells. Firstly, this form of medication would need to be readily available and would shift women from a life dependent on HRT to a life dependent on medications to stop menopause. The dependence on this hypothetical anti-menopause drug would be over many years and potentially decades, and could be incredibly costly and resource intensive for both individuals and manufacturers. Now, these medications do not currently exist, but if they were to be made, it would likely be as a result of pharmaceutical company investment. Pharmaceutical companies make their money by developing drugs to treat sicknesses and then producing a patent that allows them to control the product's manufacture, use, sale, import, and distribution. This helps ensure that the company's investment into the development of the drug is repaid and allows the pharmaceutical companies to invest the profit into developing further treatments. On the other hand, the patent protection gives pharmaceutical companies monopolies on drugs, fundamentally limiting the production and availability of newly developed treatments. For the most part, pharmaceuticals are often subsidized by countries' national health scheme or private health insurance, ensuring that the pharmaceutical companies get the return on investment they need while the general population still has cheap and easy access to new treatments. Now here's where the problem lies. Governments and insurance companies are often reluctant to subsidize medication primarily used for lifestyle enhancement. This includes treatments such as weight loss medication, skincare medication, and yes, fertility drugs. Since menopause is not considered a disease, but instead a natural biological process due to aging, this would limit its coverage under national healthcare schemes around the world. If these medications were to be locked behind a paywall, whatever health benefits we would expect might be something that only the rich could afford. In a worst-case scenario, this could balkanize a whole generation of females into those who could afford to purchase these medications and those who can't. This is a very real fear of mine, and as a society, we have to consider the cost of these treatments and how to keep the medications affordable and equitable to access. This has been the catalyst for one of my most provocative ideas, which is trying to reclassify menopause as a disease. It does meet a lot of the hallmarks of a disease, and other natural processes such as aging and obesity have started to be recognized as a disease as well. This is easily my most controversial point, and I do not feel confident that it's correct. I would love to unpack this in a further episode in the future. But for now, I just want to end quickly by going through a few other points that I did not address in detail above. Okay, so I've been told that menopause can be a very enlightening and exciting part of life. I see no reason why this couldn't be true, but once again, I think that it should be entirely up to the individual to decide whether or not to prevent menopause. I also hear that many women enjoy menopause, and indeed, while 70% of women do express relief that their regularly scheduled program of periods has proceeded to pass, many women also report that they were not adequately informed about menopause and what it entailed. Now, this is a point that I wasn't going to address, but I've had a few people mention it. Some think that I shouldn't have an opinion on this matter at all since I'm a male. I've dedicated a significant portion of my life to understanding and researching female fertility. What opinions I do have are based on science, as we understand it today. Of course, lived experience is incredibly important, but I think it would be dangerous if we were to prevent anyone without lived experience from having an opinion. That goes for anything, really. Now, that's out of the way. I've also come across quite a lot of people that tend to think that if we were to stop menopause, this might in some way lead to a dramatic overpopulation. The current literature suggests that this would probably not be a problem. While we would be increasing the fertile lifespan of females, we are seeing a trend for smaller families across the world, especially in more affluent countries. Not entirely due to infertility, but more as a result of socioeconomic changes. Okay. So the final point is one that I'm not really sure how to tackle. The question or the statement was that if we were able to cure menopause, or if we discovered a way to cure menopause, it would actually be immoral not to offer it as a treatment option as soon as possible. I don't. Yeah, I'm not sure how to tackle that one. Whether or not it would be immoral, I'm not sure. I suppose I can see it both ways. Anyway, that's beside the point. Okay, well, now you've heard the good and the bad and the ugly. I'll probably revisit this concept at a later time, when or if I find anything that I want to flesh out a bit more, or if I come across some different and compelling arguments. But for now, I will simply leave you with the question that I started with. Assuming we could cure menopause, should we?